people. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Prazini, and Pastor Prazini, and of the Bristol Church now.
Yeah.
And so let me just start as we always start. How did you get saved?
How I got saved, I'm actually from Zimbabwe, and I got saved in Zimbabwe. I was about 14 years old when I got saved. And
14.
yeah, my father had just died actually, and my mom was going to church. So we grew up going to church. From early on I can remember we grew up going to church. But at this time, my mom started going to a new church, and the church was well known for how they collected offerings.
Okay.
Like almost like a prosperity gospel kind of thing.
Okay,
but
yeah.
just how they collected offerings, which at the time was quite unusual in Zimbabwe, because most of the churches are like Methodist, Church of England, and then you have this big Pentecostal church that's well known for how they take money.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, my mom started going to this new church. Let me just go and check it out and see what it's all about, because my mind was very skeptical, just thinking, I want to see how did my mom fall for this. That's what I was thinking.
Even at 14, you was thinking that deep.
Yeah, just because I'd grown up going to church.
Okay.
And this particular church that she started going to was known, that's what they were known for.
Okay.
So I wanted to know, how come she's ended up going to this church? So anyway, I went there, and for the first time I actually heard proper preaching.
Wow.
That I'd never answered an altar call, never knew what an altar call was. Because my grandma used to go to a Methodist church, and then on my father's side they used to go to, they call it Dutch Reformed Church. So they don't really do altar calls as such.
Yeah.
And I remember it up until this day. The guy preached. I cannot remember what he talked about. But when it was time to lift my, lift your hand if you want to give your life to Jesus, I found myself at the altar.
Wow.
And all the skepticism, all of that just went out of the window. And that's the first time that I can remember that I really did make a commitment by myself that I wanted to give my life to Christ.
At 14?
Around 14 years old. That's when I did that. And the journey hasn't been easy since, but that's the first.
So when did you come to UK?
So that happened when I was 14. I came to England when I was 19.
19, okay.
19 years old.
And so at 14 when you got saved, when would that have been? What year was that?
That must have been around 1993.
Okay.
1993, 1994, thereabouts.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was in America at that point. I'd just gone to visit my dad. So what was 93 Prazini like? Because I remember 93 for me. That in my world it was hip hop. It was Nas, Snoop Dogg, and Dre. And that year I really do specifically always remember. Like if you said 1990 or I always remember about 93, 94 is like they say it's like the golden era of hip hop. So I'm like that, and then I go to America. But what is that like for this guy who's in Zimbabwe, 93?
For me specifically, it was empty.
Oh wow.
That's all I can think of. Because
is that because it's you, or is that because it's Zimbabwe? Are you the typical young man in Zimbabwe at that age?
No. The reason being, my father had just died the year before.
Okay.
In 1992.
Okay.
And his death was quite sudden. So that's why I say for me it was quite empty, I think.
And so, without prying,
you
and your dad, you had a good relationship?
Yeah. Because my parents were married.
And so that was a shock.
It was
to a young boy.
It was a shock because we didn't expect him to die. He was quite young. I think he must have been probably about 36.
Wow.
So
it's like 10 years younger than I am now.
Yeah. So he's quite young. He was fit. Because I was living with my auntie when he actually died, and I think I'd seen him like 3-4 weeks before, and he was fine. And then one day they just called and said, "Oh, your dad is not feeling well." That's fine. And then 2 days later, he's dead. And I just started secondary school, I think, when that happened. So you can imagine just the turmoil.
Yeah. Of the transition into secondary school, but now your father's gone.
Your father is gone. And that was 90. So that happened because he died in November 92.
Yeah.
And then I got saved sometime in 93, 94.
Okay, so when you're looking at that, what would you say is if you look at that, can you see that your life starts to take a different turn? Can you look at that moment and say, when a young boy loses his father, a good father, can you look back and be like, yeah, I can see something changed?
Yeah, you know what? My life at that time, just thinking about it now, a lot of things changed. Because my father dying was just one thing.
Yeah.
And then the auntie that I was living with, within 18 months of my father dying, she got divorced from her husband.
Okay.
So I'm living with them. They're having these fights.
Oh my days.
You know, I'm talking about, pickaxes and everything.
It's OG, man.
Yeah. And so all of that is happening, and I'm just young.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it was empty. You know, I when I look back now, just it was empty. A lot of suffering, a lot of struggle. You know, my mom trying to because when my father died, my mom wasn't working. She was a housewife.
Okay.
So now that he's dead, and my auntie and her husband are having their issues, then I had to move to go and live with my uncle, my mom's older brother.
Yeah.
And I stayed with him for like a year, and he wasn't saved.
Okay.
So life was very hard. And then finally my mom managed to get a job and get things going.
If you look back, can you, I mean, just to stay on this a little bit, because I think this is something which a lot of people, they go through, but we don't talk about sometimes, is, and for me, I've not had anybody in my family close to me pass away. My mum's mother died when she was about 14, and she speaks a little bit about how that affected her. And in our church, we've had people whose relatives, whose parents really, and seeing the effect on them, I really do, I'm absorbing this. I'm not feeling it myself, but I'm absorbing this information and seeing. How would you say you process the mourning at that age?
Yeah, it's a good question. The image I have, it stuck with me up until now, was just seeing my mom cry.
Yeah.
Because my mom, when you're growing up, you never see your parents cry. They are these strong people.
Yeah.
But just seeing my mother cry, and she cried for weeks.
Wow.
She just cried for weeks and weeks. And
how old was she?
She must have been probably 30.
Young woman, man.
Yeah, she was young.
Young woman.
Because, my mom had me when she was 18. So
okay.
She must have been about 32 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and one of the things that I sort of said is, I don't want my mom to see me cry. So I remember when my father died, I didn't really cry.
Wow.
I didn't really, and that was just seeing my mom cry that made me not want to cry.
Yeah.
Which is...
That's quite a deep
yeah.
thing for a 14-year-old again. But I think, sometimes young people, they are processing things and doing things that you're not aware of. You think how you're keeping these emotions in because there's a deeper thinking. I don't want to blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And you're doing things. And then those things can become habit or lifestyle, or, people later on in life are like, I realize I don't show emotion, or I don't do things, and you start to unravel it. I mean, I'm not like trying to do some sort of psycho, but you see these things.
Yeah.
The what's the word I'm looking for? it's not just these are symptoms we see, but sometimes there's a deeper reason behind it.
Yeah, that's the. Yeah, that I don't know if that's me, but I yeah. How I coped with it, I don't even know up until now, because I remember when we buried my dad.
Yeah.
We just left. It was probably on a Sunday, and like on Tuesday I was back in school.
Yeah.
But in school I was really good. I remember, because that was in November when my father died, and we in Zimbabwe we write our exams in December.
Okay.
So, and that December I was top of the whole first year secondary school.
Okay.
And I don't know if I buried myself in that.
Yeah.
Just like.
Was you always quite studious though?
No.
Okay.
No, but the uncle that I had, my mom's sister's husband, he made us. We're not allowed to watch TV.
Okay.
We're allowed to listen to the radio. You come from school, do your books.
So there was no Snoop Dogg for you?
Nah. I knew about him though.
Thank God, man. No, you delivered, man. I'm still trying to get that madness out of my head.
Yeah, that's what it was. I met up with him actually not too long ago. Bumped into him and we talked about it, and he was laughing.
Very good, man. That's good. So, okay, so you move on. So you get saved. Do you join that church or?
I was a part of that church up until I came here.
Okay.
I came to England. Yeah, I was.
Why did you come to England? What made you come here?
My mom's brother, he was coming here because he used to live in England in the 70s.
Okay.
And then he went back to Zimbabwe in 1981, 82.
Yeah.
And so he was in Zimbabwe right up until 1997. And when things didn't work out for him, he said, "You know what? I'm going back to England."
Okay.
So at that time, my mom said, "Well, Praz, if you want to go with your uncle, you can go." I'd just finished doing my A-levels.
All right.
And they said, "If you want to go, you can go." So that's how I ended up here. I said, "Okay, yeah, sure."
And so you're 19 at that point?
I'm 19 at that time, yeah.
Okay. And so if you look at Zimbabwe now and Zimbabwe then, like between the 14 and 19, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, look at Zimbabwe then and Zimbabwe now. Has it changed a lot?
It's changed a great deal. It's it almost feels like a different country. Really? Yeah. It's very, very different. Because when I left Zimbabwe in 97, I think the Zimbabwean dollar to the pound was like 1 to 10. So one pound was 10 Zimbabwean dollars, which is actually it's a very good rate. Yeah. And now the Zimbabwean dollar doesn't really exist as such.
It's so undervalued.
Yeah, we got to a point where when I tell people this, you can't get your head around it. But when you get inflation of 1,000,000%,
you can't get your head around it. I mean, what does that mean? £1 would be what?
Oh no, it didn't mean anything, because I've got bills in my house for $500 million.
So you're a millionaire.
Multi-trillionaire.
Multi-trillionaire.
Yes. So you can get your head. That's why I say it's a completely different country.
So what currency are people using now then?
They've started reverting back to the Zimbabwean dollar.
Okay.
But up until a few months ago, even now, people still charge things in US dollars.
Okay, US dollars.
Yeah.
So if you go to buy a loaf of bread in the supermarket, what are you going to be paying them? Are you going to pay them in dollars?
No, the government is insisting that you use the Zimbabwean currency.
And so how much would a piece of bread be? How much would a loaf of bread be?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But it's a the last time I went to Zimbabwe was like 4 years ago. Okay. And it's a I've sort of spent half my life here, because I left Zimbabwe when I was 19. Yeah. I'm 41, going to 42 now.
Yeah, so you've been here more than you've been.
Yeah, but it's every time I've gone back, it's a very different country. The poverty, the hopelessness. So
poverty's got worse.
Oh, it's got way, way worse. See, when I was growing up, when I tell my kids this, they don't believe me. But I say, no, when we were growing up, we'd have milk in school, would have they would give us all these things. In school, the education was good, the buildings were good, the food was good, but now it's just it's a very sad place.
Wow.
Very, very sad. The hopelessness. You have all these young people that they have no jobs. They don't really have a future. It's very sad.
So, do you still have a lot of relatives there?
Oh yeah, I've got loads.
And are they, is it tougher for them? You're seeing it. This is not just your opinion, I'm looking at, it's harder. Are you saying, no. I know people that live there, and things are a lot harder for them now than it was 20 years ago.
I have them on my WhatsApp group right now.
Oh, wow.
We talk all the time.
Yeah.
My in-laws, my wife's parents, they're still
Yeah.
in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
My first cousins, all of them, they're still in Zimbabwe. I've got loads of family
Wow.
that's back home that I talk to on a daily basis. And things are tough. Yeah, things are really, really hard.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. So you come here, 19. You come to England. Give us a quick thing, like you've come from Zimbabwe to England. What's shocking? What's like things that we would be like, oh, that's a standard life. What hit you quick that was like, wow, this is different, man? If anything.
Well, I came at the wrong time of the year. I came in December, just after Christmas, so I actually landed on the 27th of December.
Did you come with a jacket? You didn't come with a t-shirt, did you?
I was told it's going to be cold.
Okay.
And I had this jersey or this jumper that I thought, this is it. This will do it.
Oh, my days.
And we had to buy our we landed and we had to buy a jacket on the same day. Because
in Zimbabwe, does it ever get
It
that
gets
cold?
cold, but it's not for long.
Okay.
You can get away with it. Depends what part of Zimbabwe you're in, actually. Some
Okay.
areas don't get that cold, but
All right.
yeah, it does get cold, but not for long. So I got here in December. It was very depressing.
Really?
Yeah, it was because you see, when you watch films,
Yeah.
you watch mostly American films.
Okay.
And so you see New York, you see Los Angeles, you see all. So I'm expecting all these high-rise, modern buildings.
Yeah.
And we came from Heathrow. No, it was Heathrow. I think it was Heathrow that we came through.
Yeah.
And then on the train, just seeing like
Little houses.
grey,
Yes, very-
depressing.
Yeah.
What have we got ourselves into? And when we landed, the person we were meant to stay with, they told us, no, you can't come.
Oh, no.
So you just landed, you're cold, you're looking for somewhere nice and warm. You just said, no, you know what, guys, things have changed.
Oh, no. So what did you do?
I think it was God, because that's how I actually ended up in church. So, a cousin of mine, we just rang her and said, listen, this is what's happened. The person we were meant to stay with, they just told us, tough, you guys can't come.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, sure, you can come and stay on the floor.
And when was that? What year would that be?
97.
97. Okay.
Yeah, December 97.
So is that when you came to church?
That's when I came to church.
So it's about a year after me. I came 96.
Okay.
I came, exactly a year after me.
Yeah.
No, is that? No. More than a year, because I came January 96. So a year and a...
So it's almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so that was... Because I remember we came on a Saturday, and then on Sunday I was in church.
There you go. God had a plan, man.
Yeah.
God shut one door to open another door.
Yeah, because if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have stayed with this cousin of mine.
Wow.
That later on invited us to church.
So you see how God moves, man.
Yep. That's why I said it must have been God, because who knows where I would have been.
Yeah, because to know that someone's coming from another country and then just to say, no, you can't, at least you'd be like, look, all right, you can't stay here for long. I'm going to give you a few months. But you're on the plane, you land, and then no.
Yeah.
Like, tell me when I'm in...
Yeah, should have told us when we're back home.
Tell me when I'm back home, I can make my arrangements. So, yeah, maybe, these things are...
Yeah.
God had a plan. So you come into the church. What did you feel about the church coming from the church you was in? Was it vastly different?
Because they were both Pentecostal churches, so nothing was surprising to me. That the altar calls, the preaching, speaking in tongues. Nothing was really But
What building were we in then?
the very first service I came,
Yeah.
you guys were in Brixton. All I remember was some dark room.
What room was that? The you mean in?
Not the town hall.
Oh,
but
I know.
I think
It's what they used to call that, the hub or something. It's
Yeah.
opposite.
the town hall.
Yeah. I know. It's like the old church.
Yes, the one in the square on its
Yeah,
own.
and you go upstairs. I think Ruak used to be in there at some point
Yeah.
doing
Oh.
something in there.
So that was my first experience of Potter's house.
Yeah, I remember that building. That building was I think we was there. They were doing something at wherever we were,
Yeah,
Civic Center or
Center.
something like that, and we had to go there.
yeah. So that was my first service, and Pastor Carnegie was preaching.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what actually made me stay in the church, because everything, the building wasn't all that.
yeah.
But the preaching was like, wow, this is serious. And then I think the following week, Pastor Jay actually preached, because Pastor Carnegie, I think he went to South Africa.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, I remember that. I think Stacey Dillard was there at that point.
Yeah, and then and I was like, wow, this is good.
Yeah,
So yeah, I just started coming.
amazing. So, church, you kind of got with it, you knew it. Looking back now, you were saved. When you was in Zimbabwe, that was it. You was saved. You weren't just a church attender. You were saved.
No, I was saved.
Yeah. Okay.
I was saved. I had my struggles, I had my battles, but I was saved.
He was genuinely saved.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, because sometimes we look at young people and think they can't be saved. And here is this guy who gets saved at 14, and he's just saved.
Yeah.
And so we got to believe God. Young people can be saved. Sometimes we're petting them, and they're gonna. You can be saved at 14. You can be saved and serve God, and Jesus can be your Lord, man. There's no joke. You don't have to. They're too young. They can't handle it. Listen, if you're not too young to do a madness, so
no, you're not.
you can do good things at that young age. Okay, so you come into the church. So how long you been married?
I've been married 16 years now, or it will be 16 years this year.
Okay, 16 years. How many children do you have?
3 girls.
What ages are they?
Oh, Courtney, you're getting me in trouble here.
Yeah.
13. She'll be
Yes.
14 in April.
Yes.
And then the other one is 10, and the youngest is 6.
There you go. You got it.
Yeah.
And so, glory. And so, how did you meet Patricia?
Patricia, we met in church.
Oh wow.
We just met in church.
And you know what? In my head,
Yeah.
obviously back then, silly young guy, I don't observe anybody.
Yeah.
I thought you came with her. I thought you guys just came together. Like in my head, if you was to ask me now,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh no, they came together. I don't even remember Patricia being in church.
No. Patricia started coming to church in 2000.
Wow.
2000. That's when she started coming to church.
I better edit this out, because if Patricia sees that, she'll be like, yeah, there's no love from Courtney, man.
No,
He didn't even know I existed. Liberties.
No, yeah, she started coming to church 2000, and Primrose introduced me. Said, oh yeah, there's a girl that's coming, and then we found out that we were going to the same uni.
Oh
We
wow.
were actually going to the same uni. She was like a semester ahead of me,
Okay.
so that's why we became close. Like, oh yeah, we actually go to the same uni, go to
Yeah.
the same church,
Yeah.
and then 2 years later we started dating.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, did she get saved in Potter's house, or was she already saved?
No, she
before?
got saved in Potter's
She got
house.
saved. Okay.
She got saved. In
And so, when you started to get to know her, she's a new convert.
she's a new convert.
And so, did you instantly think, yeah, I like her, man, or was it over time?
It was over time. I actually liked someone else.
You rascal.
Yeah, I actually liked someone else.
Oh, really?
I had
Yeah.
my eyes on someone else, and then somebody else jumped into.
Oh wow, jumped in. Listen, I'm not asking, and we're not telling, man. I was going to say, because it's YouTube, I was going to say, if you want to know who the someone else is, there's a link below to their Facebook.
Most people wouldn't know.
No,
They've left anyway.
Praise God.
So yeah, that was that. She really. All right.
So, if anyone's wondering why we're laughing, we've edited out what we needed to edit out. But what we're gonna say is that when you first saw her, you weren't really feeling her in that way.
No, not at all.
Amen.
Because from when I was introduced, didn't really feel anything.
Yeah.
The only time I started feeling something was when we actually had a proper conversation.
Yeah.
So I think we went to a fellowship.
Okay.
And we sat sort of across each other, like the way we are sitting right now.
Yeah.
So we were sort of forced to be in a conversation.
Mm.
And then just talking, realized that she was 21, which is just say, like 6 months younger than me. Like, oh, okay, she is young.
Yeah.
And we started talking just like the way she spoke, and I said, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, good.
And then
So, and at that point, how long would she have been in church? When would you have said that when you guys started to talk like that?
I don't know, maybe 9 months to a year.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, so she's been in church a while.
Yeah, I think 9 months to a year. And then like a year later, we started dating.
Okay.
Because I know we started dating around 2002. So so it must have been about 9 months to a year.
Okay. And so, when did you feel that you were called to preach the gospel?
That's a good one. I always had a desire to preach.
Yeah.
I really, because I remember telling my uncle, my mom's older brother.
So this is back when you was in Zimbabwe?
No, when we were here.
Okay.
When I started coming to church, I really just had a desire to preach.
Yeah.
Even when I was in Zimbabwe, I said, I wouldn't mind being a preacher.
Oh, wow.
But no, just talking, nothing. I remember telling my uncle that, I would want to preach. But I didn't know how it was going to happen because I didn't want to go to Bible school.
Yeah, okay.
Just going to, because the church I used to go to, the one I got saved in Zimbabwe, they had a Bible school of their own.
Okay.
So if you wanted to be a preacher, you sort of like had to go through that whole routine. So I really didn't feel that. And so when I came to Potter's house, it was only much later that I realized actually all these guys I'd seen preaching, they hadn't been to Bible school. Then I realized this actually could happen.
Okay. So you think that's the thing where, in the fellowship of Potter's house, where I say to people, we're not perfect. No one says we're perfect. Yeah. But I like that normal, average guys are inspired that they have an opportunity to do something for God. And people have to realize, there are many institutions are good. They're good institutions on this planet, and they're godly institutions. But the prerequisite, or the requirement, many of us that are out now doing something for God, they wouldn't even really, they'd be like, nah, you ain't, you're going to need more, you ain't got enough. When you got saved, Pastor Carnegie was here.
Yes.
Did you communicate that to Pastor Carnegie, or? Yeah?
Yes, I did, actually. We had, I met him. We had a meeting. He came to our, I think it was a flat. I was staying with my cousin. Yeah. And then we just started talking. He's just asking me what I wanted to do, etc., etc. And I told him that, if that's something I wanted to do. If at some point, and he said, just keep coming to church, just keep believing God, and we'll see what happens.
Very good. So, late 90s, you come to church. 97.
Yeah, 97.
By 2000, you get saved. When? You get married.
I got married in 2004.
2004. By that time, is Pastor Peter here, or is it still Pastor Carnegie?
Pastor Peter is the one. We were Pastor Peter's first wedding, actually.
Okay, so Pastor Peter's here now.
Yeah.
And then you get sent out. When did you get sent out?
we started the church in 2009. So it must have been, we got sent out in November 2008, but actually started the church in 2009.
So you got married 2004, got sent out 2009.
Yeah.
So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What's that, about 4 years? 5 years.
Yeah.
And do you think that was beneficial for you?
I think it was. I think it was very beneficial. Just being married, that because we had, I think we're door directors for like 2 of those years.
Yeah.
And but it was beneficial. I learned a lot. If I had been sent out any sooner, I don't think it would. I don't think it would have worked, because up until that time, I only started being really active in church, probably around 2004, 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
That's when I really started being active, because I was now around other guys.
Yeah. So you say this. So you're a trained nurse, is that right? Is that right? What it's called?
Yeah, I'm a trained.
Trained. Okay. And so you studied for that.
I studied for that. So
you came here and you went to university.
I came
college or what?
Yeah, I went to. So I came here in '97. Had to go through hoops, to get the proper visa, etc., etc. That took a few years to do that. And then 2000, I went to university.
Okay.
And then did that for 3 years.
Okay.
Finished 2003, and then 2004 got married.
And what made you go into nursing?
That's the only way I could get a proper stay in the country and get and get a decent job with it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And so, did you enjoy nursing? Do you like it?
Eventually, I did.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a career that I grew up saying, I want to do this, I want to do that.
Yeah.
You can't it grew on me. That's how I'll describe it. Then realized once I started comparing the salaries and the career progression, it's not as bad as I thought it would,
Okay. And so, here you are, you've come here, you've studied, you've gone to uni, you're qualified, you're working as a nurse, and then God starts to deal with you about pioneering. And so was there any wrestle in there? Was it just, no, it's easy, that's what I want to do and I'm geared for that? Or was it a thing of, oh, okay, I'm going to make the adjustments that needs to be made?
I think because I was young, there wasn't too much wrestling, but I had to, career-wise, I had to make adjustments.
Yeah.
Because if as you know, nurses, you work in a hospital, and hospitals are open 24 hours a day, so you're expected to be at work night, day, Sundays. So I started making quick decisions that, if I'm going to pioneer or do anything in church, I sort of had to. I started looking for jobs that were Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Yeah. Just so that I could be a bit more active in church, and then having to. I remember when I left my job on the ward, I had to. They offered me a managerial post, and I had to turn it down so that I could go and work in the community, which is less money but a bit more flexible time-wise. That was hard. Because now I'm a young guy. Yeah. You're getting this offer, and like, we can give you this job, and then saying no, I'm actually going to go for something slightly less money, but with a bit more flexibility, which was I thank God I did that, because I then stayed in that job even when I was pioneering. I was in the same job. Okay. I could pioneer and still do the same job. So that. Yeah, but there was a bit of wrestling there, something that you've gone to uni for 3 years, and then you practice it for a few years, and then you have to leave it. Yeah, it's a bit hard. Yeah, you've got to make those decisions, man. If you're going to preach the gospel, that's the thing. A lot of people don't appreciate that. Usually anyone who's doing something for God, they've had to make certain decisions, and so when people will be like, oh yeah, people are doing it for the money, but the reality is, most guys, especially if you're pioneering, you're like, look, there was opportunities for me here, but I'm willing to make this sacrifice for the things of God.
But God is faithful, man. God
He's
always
very faithful.
comes through. It feels like a sacrifice at the time, but when you look back, you always realize it was a privilege that God would ask you that. So, okay, so you pioneered in Kingston.
Yes.
How long was you there for?
We're in Kingston for 3 years and a bit.
3 years and a bit, okay. And then you come and assist Pastor Peter.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Was that something that Pastor approached you about, or how did it go down?
Yeah, one day Pastor Jala called me and he just said, "Oh, Praz, how you doing?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, everything's okay." I said, "You know what, I would want you to come back and assist me, because Colin wants to do something else." I think Colin wanted to go to Botswana at the time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so he said, "Can you come back?" So I said to him, "Okay, I'll get back to you." And then one day went by, 2 days went by, a week went by. And then he called me and said, "Hey, what's happening?" I said, "You know what, Pastor, I don't think I'll be able to do it." And
Why was that?
well, because I really wanted to see something happen in Kingston.
Okay.
That was the main reason. So I said to him, "You know what, Pastor, I really would want the church to be established, etc., etc." So, yeah, that was my reason, that because I felt that the church wasn't. So Pastor said, "Listen, he talked. He said, you don't have to do that."
Yeah.
But I felt like I wanted to stay a bit longer, just to really ground the church and get some. Because at the time, when you're pioneering, you I don't know other people, but I wanted to see loads of people getting saved, see a big church, and then I could feel. But I think some of it probably might have been pride, like I want to see
Ego, innit?
ego,
We've all.
yeah. Almost like I want to make a name for myself. I don't know if that's how I would put it. So Pastor Jella sort of, he just said, you don't have to do that.
I think that's going to be the battle in the future for all of us, and especially as more and more we see people doing great things and we hear of testimonies of great things, that the attraction becomes, I want to go and make a name for myself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build my own ministry, and you're not making decisions based upon, the kingdom of God. It's about you, promoting you, and that's. I think we all wrestle with that.
Yeah.
It's like the thing that we're all gonna wrestle with that.
Yeah, because I remember what Pastor Jala said to me. He said, "You know what, Praz, it's not just you, it happens to everybody." So he told me his example here in Bristol, that when he got the call to go to Namibia, he was thinking, "Listen, I've got disciples, I've got a church, I want to see them being launched out, I want to see them go out, and then you're now removing me from that. I want to see all this stuff that I've worked so hard for. I want to see it all come into fruition, and then at that time you're being asked to move and go somewhere else." And he says it happens at any stage in ministry.
So okay, so you're in thing, and then so you actually say, so then you what do you do? Rethink it, and then you came back and said, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah. So after that, I said, "Okay, if that's the case," I kind of saw what you were saying. So I said, "Okay, that's fine."
So you go to assist in Rotherhithe. At that point, do we have our own conference already now?
Yeah. Oh, we had our conference. I think we've been having conference for like 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so quite a while. So you go back. What's the transition? I guess, what would you say? Okay, from pioneering to being a good assistant, because you've been an assistant for quite a while, and now you've been assistant of 2 pastors, Pastor Jala, Pastor Ruby. You've kind of been the guy that's been the consistency over that handover, and then come here. What would you say was the real adjustment of being the best assistant you can from becoming, from being the guy that pioneered?
It's when we were announced, I didn't become full-time assistant.
Okay.
So I was living in, it was hectic. When I think about it now, it's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
But I was living in Kingston.
Yeah.
I was working in
that.
Penge.
Wow.
And the church was in South,
Peckham,
Peckham area.
Yeah.
That's where the church was. So I didn't move from Kingston for like 2 years. So I was still living in Kingston and I was working in Penge.
Yeah.
So I was working my full-time job,
Yeah.
and then I was assisting Pastor Jala as well. But at that time, Colin didn't end up going to Botswana, so he was still around.
Yeah.
So I was able. It was a great help, I guess, just having him around. But it was very busy. It felt like I was still pioneering, just the energy and the effort, and trying to be involved in the church and still living quite far and working. But I was learning a great deal, just being around Pastor Jala and being around all the other men. But yeah, the transition was hard.
Okay, so coming from pioneering, here you are, you're kind of pioneering, doing what you're doing, and then coming into the mother church where now you have the pastor and you're assisting him. How does that transition? How do you, if you was to speak to someone who's considering becoming an assistant, what would you say to them? It's like, look, this is who was a pastor, pioneering. Now they're going to be an assistant. What would you say to them?
I would say you need to learn how to play second fiddle. You really have to, not in a negative way, but you are a pastor, but you're not the pastor of the church.
Yeah.
And for me, what made it slightly difficult is I had all my peers that were in church.
Yeah.
You got all the people that know you.
Yeah.
From way before I was a pastor, people that probably were saved before me.
Yeah.
And now you sort of come in and you've got that pastoral role, but you're not the pastor.
Yeah.
And some of them are your friends. And then you have to say certain things. And I found that quite difficult because naturally I'm not a confrontational person. And just having to pastor people that are peers was a bit tricky. And then when you're an assistant, you're exactly that. I was there to assist Pastor Jala in his ministry, or Pastor Ruby in his ministry. So I have to take on board what they are doing and make whatever vision they have to be my vision. So, you might not agree 100%, but what they're the pastor of the church.
Yeah.
And I have to sort of say, okay, what they want to succeed, I have to want that to succeed. And sometimes in your own personal self, you have that conflict.
Yeah.
But if you're an assistant, I think you have to try and make it happen for that pastor, their vision to become a reality, and not for you to be a hindrance.
Yeah. I get
Which,
that.
It can be hard, especially if you've been pioneering, because when you go out pioneering, you're sort of, you're on your own, you're the man, you're making decisions, but now you can somebody else makes a decision and you have to process that decision and make it happen, or make it to be your vision as well.
I think that's what did I speak to? I think we were talking to maybe Colin and also to Piwa, and that was kind of like the same thing where you've got to process this thing. Is here you are assisting that person, and you can't have your own separate thing going on at the same time. A duality within the church.
No.
These two things is counterintuitive, and I think when you're pioneering, you're constantly thinking of ideas and things you want to do, and this is what I want to do, and that's how I want to do it. And then you come to assist, and it's like
you have to assist.
I think that's it's not easy. I think looking at it from the outside, I can do that. Anyone could do that. But I think it has its own challenges, which are different. But I think it is immensely valuable. So at a certain point, did you start to feel like, I would like to do something else now? I feel something else is there for me.
Being an assistant, you get to learn a lot. But it's almost like you're a sponge. You're just absorbing all this stuff.
Yes.
You are around. So I'm around Pastor Jala, around Pastor Ruby. All the preachers that come in. You're getting to spend time, and so you're absorbing all this stuff. And there has to be an outlet. At some point. And so I knew that at some point, because people would ask me, do you feel like you want to go out again? I'm like, if I don't know anyone who wants to be an assistant or who has been an assistant all their life. Like, this is just what I'm doing. Yeah, some people might. But I think for me, I knew at some point I was going to do that. And when we had the pastoral changeover, that kind of killed, like, okay, you can't, Pastor Jala has left, and I'm like, oh, Pastor Ruby, I need to leave. It just wouldn't have been right.
Yeah, they needed some continuity
they just had
from one to the other.
Yeah. So, but I told Pastor Ruby that, if an opportunity ever came, that I would be open.
Okay.
I would be open to it. And so he just told me, not at the moment, but if something comes up, I'll let you know. So that's how we end up here in Bristol.
And so you've been here how long?
Well, we did the changeover in August 2019, and then we finally moved to Bristol December 2019.
So really just a month, man.
So I've been here for a month
and a bit, living here. And it's funny because I think I came here about a year and a half ago and did a real disciple with Pastor Jay here. And so it's a unique experience. And so the church has a rich history in the South London Fellowship. Pastors pioneered by Pastor Ajala. I mean, it really was one of the churches we always heard about in South London. What God was doing here, miracles, buildings, converts, wonderful. So I think coming here, it's my second time preaching here as a pastor. I come here many, many times on impact teams as a disciple, but coming here I think it was 2018 and this year, I really do feel that there's a rich resource under the surface, and can be tapped into within the city. The city's changed a lot, and
it's a very dynamic city. The church is, like you said, rich history. Members. There's members in this congregation that have been saved for over 15. I think one particular lady, 20 years.
Wow.
So you got people like that. That are still on fire. They still love the things of God. Come to church.
Great.
So that's a great heritage, and the people in the church know that the history of the church, where the church has come from, the impact, the influence it's had over the years. So we're just looking forward to what God is going to do. Like you said, there's loads of potential in Bristol as a city, and just to see what God is going to do. I'm excited.
When you think of the word discipleship, make disciples, being a disciple, what comes to your mind? What does that look like to you? The whole principle or hearing about disciples is something that the first time I heard it was actually when I came to Potter's House. Okay.
That's the first time I could say I've ever heard people use the term discipleship. But as you read the Bible and you start looking, you actually do realize that the early Christians were called disciples.
Yeah.
They didn't actually use the word Christian.
Yeah.
It was more disciples. Because these were people that were following Christ, or they're following the teachings of Christ. That's what a disciple was. But even when Jesus died and he was gone, people were still following the teachings of Christ.
Yeah. Meaning
that somebody had passed it on to them for them to be able to still call themselves a disciple. So that's my understanding of what a disciple is. Somebody who's, the strict definition, you're following the teachings of somebody, or you've learned something from someone and you're sticking to it.
Yeah.
And so we are, ultimately, we are disciples of Christ.
Yes.
But I personally believe being a disciple, you become a disciple of Christ because somebody else has taught you.
Yeah.
Or they've influenced you, they've poured themselves out into you, and you become a disciple. So you're following Christ, but somebody else has taught you. You're learning from somebody. And being a discipler is the same thing that Paul, I guess, said when he said, follow me as I follow Christ.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is, if you do what I'm doing, you read what I'm reading, or you pray the way I'm praying, it's going to lead you to Christ. And I think that's what God is calling us to do, that, you know, we would live our lives in such a manner that it affects others and it actually directs them and guides them to Christ.
Yeah. So, what would you say some of the things, obviously you've pioneered, try to make disciples, you've then been in a bigger mother church, conference body church, try to make disciples. What would you say some of the obstacles to discipleship that you see, this hinders discipleship? What would you say, your experience?
I think it's twofold. I think for those that are trying to make disciples,
Yeah.
You have to make time.
Yeah.
Discipleship is personal. You have to make time to meet with the people, spend time with them.
Yeah.
Just like you know, if you're an apprentice, you know, you can't be an apprentice online.
And with that, we're going to finish. Praz, thank you very much.
No, thank you, Courtney. This is really good.
Appreciate it. We'll keep you in prayer, and we're going to believe God. He's going to do. He's going to continue the good work He's done in Bristol and add to it. In Jesus' name, man.
Amen. So, what's the fee for this? What do I get?
You only have to pay us. We'll talk about that offline.